Conscious collaboration brings together entrepreneurs, changemakers, and thought leaders. We aim to highlight the people that embody the idea of aligned mind, body, and business. Each week, we share, discuss, and learn from the various experiences and ideas of our guest experts. Through our discovery, we find a path to an aligned mind, body, and business.
Hey guys, I'm Lisa.
And I'm Emily, and we are the Conscious Collaboration Podcast. What up, listeners? What up, Lisa?
Hey, you know what I forgot to reflect on in our pre-chat, Emily, was that we are now radio stars, basically.
I know. I was just having that thought too. I was like, we had a busy week. We should tell everybody.
That was amazing. So if you guys didn't catch our last episode, it was ahead of our radio appearance, right? On the Big Gay Radio Show.
Correct. Yes, because we did it Wednesday night / early Thursday morning.
I have to tell you, I'm still recovering, and I think I lost a little bit of time.
Yes.
There's
So
a major...
if y'all missed it, we were live. You can catch the replay of this, by the way, on Spotify or your favorite podcast directory. It's called The Big Gay Radio Show. And will be, I suppose, one of their more recent episodes, depending on when you check it out. But we were on it live initially, so this is Wednesday night / into Thursday morning, 12 midnight to 3 a.m. We didn't quite close the club down, but we stayed till 2. And for us, single mamas, especially, lately I've been like religious about my sleep, with the bodybuilding and everything like that. So it was definitely a shakeup of things. Worth it.
Yeah, it was worth it. Yeah.
Definitely a shakeup. And I did 2 nights in a row of altered schedules, because I went to one of my throwbacks. I went to go see Juvenile live, and it was like a little time machine. So we had a cool week.
So the theme of the week last week, and I think it spilled over, was the amplification of joy and how that spilled over and radiated into everything. And that carried through from the podcast to the radio show to what we did in our personal lives outside of that. So
for sure,
that was lots of fun. It was a little intimidating, but I loved the vibe they had in the control room and how creative together.
Yeah, and it felt cool once you put on those headphones. It felt so official.
Yeah, they had such great sound equipment, as they should, because they're legit in everything that they do. I mean, they're one of the best in Tampa Bay. And it was really cool to be in that environment. It took me back to live TV days. And I just love their authentic, organic conversations, how good they were at including us in the topics, even though, some things we didn't know about. But I felt like I walked away learning some stuff too.
For sure. And it was just a good time with cool people. So y'all should definitely check that episode out.
Yeah.
And I have been really enjoying consuming podcasts as a media format lately, because it works so well with a moving body, I guess. And so one of the people that I saw at the nutrition coaching convention that I went to back in April was Ed Mylett. And that was just a crazy, powerful experience in itself. But I always love catching any podcast that he is on, and he has his own podcast as well. So I end up getting out my notes app anytime I'm listening to him, because he just drops these bangers. Just drops these bangers, and they get my philosophical wheels turning. So thankfully, as we were kind of throwing around potential topics, I thought, I have a couple of notes from an Ed
Yeah.
Mylett podcast I just listened to. I can't remember whether it was one that he was hosting or a guest on, but I don't suppose it matters too much. The topic of conversation that was so interesting to me was about changing the question. And so I'll put some context to that. A lot of um, what we're working with, especially, in my coaching work, and I think this would apply to just about any kind of coaching work, whether it's fitness and nutrition related or, business or otherwise, design, any of that. As you're working on these big heady goals, sure, there's the physical actions, right, that you have to take to get there, but a big, and some would argue to be the more challenging part of this process, of any process of achieving goals, is the mindset piece of it.
Mhm.
And you can know, like, and apply this to, some sort of nutrition concept, right?
Mhm.
It's something simple that say, hey, it's probably not a great idea to eat a whole package of Oreos every single night. Probably just not a good idea.
Probably not.
Now, that said, and that being a pretty, you know, uh, common and understandable piece of knowledge, taking it from the point of eating the package of Oreos every night to not doing that on a regular and consistent basis, isn't just as easy as we'll stop doing it, right? Because there's inevitably a big mindset element that goes
Mm.
with it, and not just the fact that, and it's not just a knowledge deficit, in other words.
Yeah.
So um so in regards to changing the question, you know okay, so say you're in this position of compulsively eating a box of Oreos every night, instead of so you'll want to tune in. This is the self-awareness piece we're always talking about, right? You want to tune in to the why, to what's going on here. But you may find yourself asking questions more like, why am I so irresponsible? Why do I lack so much discipline? Why am I so hungry? Like, why is my metabolism broken? Why can't I get this right? Why am I so stupid? Whatever
Mhm.
the questions are that are pretty unhelpful, largely, as questions, and they don't actually get us closer to achieving this goal of not eating a box of Oreos compulsively every night, right? So changing the question, and he gave a really great, just kind of universal question to turn to, I think, and that is, what would I need to believe about this to make this work? Right? Because you think about the idea that it's what we believe that actually manifests, right? Not just what we say. That's why we can repeat something over and over and over again until the cows come home. And still, that's not the only piece to manifesting it, because if we don't believe that, or if we have a belief that we don't deserve the thing, or that getting the thing is hard, or whatever the case may be, it's that belief that's actually at the center of whatever is blocking us from achieving that thing. So to change the question, to turn the spotlight right back onto that belief, I think, to me, feels like the most clean route, right? And not too fluffy, right? But just to start to create actionable steps, to get from point A to point B. I just thought that was the most brilliant and sort of clean cut question, to start to examine.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think it can be applied to so many things. I think nutrition's a great example of something that we do, things that we do repetitively, that become programmed or part of our lifestyle.
Mindless
Yeah.
even. Mhm.
And really just, the the idea, like you're saying, of applying something that allows you to not just ask the question in a broad context, but some way that you're embodying the outcome that you desire. So it might
Mhm.
be like, what's an example of questions that you would ask in this framework around stopping eating the Oreos every night?
Yeah, I'm saying I would literally ask that question. What do I need to believe about this process to make this work for me? Do I
Yeah.
need to believe that and that could be very different depending on the individual, because that
No, it
forces
just
you
it
to
just
then
starts with that.
examine, well, what do I believe about this?
Yeah.
Like what is behind this? Is it because I believe I don't deserve good health? Is it because I believe that because I believe I'm gross and disgusting, and whatever the self-talk is, like, this could look a lot of different ways for a lot of different people, but I think that's a great sort of universal question to start with,
So you
to get
start
right
that
down to the
question.
nitty-gritty.
You just start that question, and then either like blocks or opportunities start to come to mind from your subconscious, probably.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think the next logical thing is to say, okay, well, what do I currently believe?
Hmm.
You know, or we're just starting with the original question, like, a person who achieves this thing that I'm trying to achieve, whatever it is,
Hmm.
what do they believe about the situation? They believe they're, worthy of XYZ achievement. They believe that they are capable of, doing what is required to get there. And you can kind of start stacking these things up. And I think from that you can look and say, okay, well, where is my deficit? What don't I believe
Hmm.
that I need to believe to make this work? And then, in my mind, it's much easier to make an actionable plan to get to that belief when you know what the belief is that is blocking you.
Yeah, I like that. I think it's interesting just how people live their lives and their perspectives and how their own subconscious might answer the question. Because my mind immediately goes to, rather than the blocks, but what resonated most with me is, why am I so capable? And then I'm thinking of all the reasons of things that I've, reflecting back on experience, thinking, well, I was able to do this, or I should be able to do this. I will be able to do this, rather rather than thinking about the deficits. I think more about like the evidence of the reasons why I am capable of putting down the Oreos.
Well, I mean, if what you had determined, is that maybe I don't think I can, like, it's another step from that. I mean, because I do think you need to, if you don't know what your deficit is, what your block is,
Hmm.
how are you going to believe what you need to believe? And maybe it's not that you don't believe you're capable. Maybe it is. And
Yeah.
if you don't believe that you're capable, then that's where you need to solidify your mindset
Mm.
and talk and tell yourself all the reasons why you're capable, all the things you've done historically, or whatever the case may be. Um, you know, it may be that, okay, I need to believe that, because, uh
Or
i-
maybe
that
like, I like what comes to mind to me is, maybe I don't need to reward myself, or I don't need to eat this sleeve of cookies to make myself feel better for the crappy day that I had, or to reward myself for the great day that I had. I can do something else.
Right. So maybe, what do I need to believe to make this happen? Is maybe I need to believe that there are, um, other ways of coping with
Mhm.
things than food.
Yeah.
or maybe, but by examining what beliefs need to be held, you'll be able to tell, I think, where you're sort of lacking. So that, and of course, nothing is 100% universally applicable, but I think finding and latching on to these little easy sort of hacks and methods that are pretty universal is a good start.
Yeah, no, I think it's an interesting universal hack, and just interesting to think how each person might apply it differently, or what the experience is, because someone who's faced a lot of trauma and upbringing, or you know, berating from people around them, or unsupportive, they don't have their conscious collaborators around them, might hear in that reply someone else's voice saying, because you never could, or something,
Yeah.
um, negative. So also just like evaluating whose voice is answering the question, um, comes to mind for me. But I don't know. I like it. I think it's good because being a visionary and entrepreneur, as all of our listeners are, a lot of our goals could seem just completely bonkers to many people in our lives. And it could be nutritional goals, if such as your goal, like I'm going to be in a strength um, competition. And people be
Mhm.
like, what? How is that? Like, how is that even possible? But doing something around this exercise and changing that question, I wonder if that's something that, in your example, that might have been something that you did.
Yeah, I mean, I think I hadn't necessarily consciously done this practice before, but I think that you could almost literally apply it to anything you're trying to achieve.
Hmm.
Any sort of goal, any sort of another big one that comes to mind is like money. Um, money patterns. And I liked it in relation to that because I know for me, it's been really hard for me to see my what my blocks are, because a lot of times these if you want to call them negative beliefs or unhelpful beliefs are sort of below the surface of consciousness, and you want to think, you're like, well, I think I believe I deserve this money, or I think I believe, you know what I mean, I think I believe I deserve to have enough. So I think that's a really helpful question about, okay, what do I need to believe first of all, and identify that kind of stuff. And if I sit down and did that as an exercise, I think I would have a lot easier time sort of filling that space in between where I am in my money beliefs and what I need to believe in order, for things to go the way I imagine. So,
All of this conversation, I know you probably don't want to talk about it on the episode, but all of this conversation reminds me, I'm in a bunch, I'm training a lot in AI and that type of thing. And I'm in a lot of workshopping groups and prompts and building bots and so on and so forth. And we build a lot of bots around, when you build your own personal bot, it's not open to the internet. It's just knowing you and how you work and so on and so forth. And you might have seen this like on social media, but you can prompt AI to say, like, knowing what you know about me, um and you can elaborate on whatever it is. um you can ask it the question, like, what is it that I need to believe to be able to fill in the blank, expand into this market, or um create fill in the blank, or to achieve whatever goal. And it will build out an action plan for you. It's so crazy. Like, down to like, what should I be doing as soon as I wake up in the morning? What to live in that way.
yeah. I mean, I think it's an interesting I think it'd be an interesting supplement to the
Yeah.
whole, to the whole thing. I think it's probably, and this is just, me talking and theorizing. I think it's probably pretty valuable to go through the exercise completely yourself also,
Oh yeah,
probably
for sure.
before AI does it, and then, to take it with a couple of grains of salt, I guess, if that's the appropriate way to fix that phrase. But like, you know, um when you take the humanity out of something, I just put a little less weight into it, but
I
but
think
I
it's
think it'd be an
amazing.
interesting
It's
addition.
really, really cool what it comes back with. I mean, it's not like, oh, I'm gonna do exactly what
Right.
AI is
I'll
telling
be
me to
like, "Don't
do.
tell me what to do." Fucking robot.
Right. But I think, and also I'm not the type of person to implement specific checklist type of routines. I'm just not going to do it. But the feedback I got when I did it was mind blowing, and also just really made something that's intangible seem very actionable and achievable. And, backing it up with like, well, based on this experience that you have with this, and this is what would be the next step, and this is what you would do. Like, maybe I'm not going to do all of that, but just to like interact with something in a brainstorming kind of way.
Yeah, it could definitely give you ideas that you wouldn't have thought of.
Yeah. Yeah. Or that you would even accept being a part of like what you can that you imagine that something that you would be able to do. It
Mhm.
might be like, I don't know, I think it can be personalized too. And certainly a tool and a supplement, and not like how you should guide your life, or not in like a dogmatic way. But like a great, like, I don't know, like a corner cutter in that kind of sense,
Mhm.
like pulling all the pieces together.
Mhm. I think you could apply it to even like in the most intense of ways, like especially if you're trying to embark on something that like most people would deem impossible, or
Yeah.
it's just not the way we do things, right? Or
Mhm.
whatever.
Or you've done it that
um
way before and it's never worked.
whether Yeah, whether
Why
it's
do
a
you think?
business achievement, or even and this is of course an extreme example, and I don't want anybody to take this too literally, but the thought came up of even getting like a very serious medical diagnosis
Mhm.
that maybe, and I hate this. This is always just hard for me to think about and upsetting in some ways. Even giving prognoses, like, because we know now, we have objective data to show now, how powerful what you believe about your own health is, whether it's placebo effect in the positive or nocebo effect, and
Mhm.
as a nurse, I've seen this play out in real life, where, people survive things that they are quote unquote not supposed to survive. Um, or people die from things that maybe, like, and maybe it didn't, I don't know, I'm not God, but maybe it didn't necessarily have to go that way because of what they believed about how they were going to respond to the certain treatment. And they've, like I said, they've even shown this with like surgeries. That, like, there was a certain, like a arthroscopic knee surgery that they went through, and they did two different, they were trying to see which of the two methods in surgery was so effective, and they used a fake people who got fake surgery group as a control. Like, they got the two little slits, as if they had had the procedure done, and they did like some kind of a fake like setup with cameras of other people getting surgery and stuff. So these people really thought they had the surgery, and it was equally effective across all 3 groups.
Wow.
So basically,
Yeah.
like the surgery, it wasn't even the surgery that was helping
Oh,
people. It was their belief about what the surgery was doing for them. So anyway, all that is to say that the mind is so powerful and our beliefs are so powerful that I'm like, should we even be giving people prognoses of like how we think they're going to do? Because how often does this then carry over into what actually happens, and are we being now prescriptive with these prognoses of what ends up happening to these people? And so circling back, I think this could be a really powerful question, even in the case of something that extreme, like a serious medical diagnosis, wherein you go, okay, well, this is clearly very serious, but what do I need to believe in order to make this work to the best outcome?
mhm. Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah, that I don't know if you already talked about it in the actual recording today, but the speaker that you grabbed the quote from we might have talked about it in another episode, maybe with Gopal, Dr. Gopal, but really, that's how that came about because his prognosis on like, oh, it's just you have to accept you're getting older and your hip's not going to work anymore, kind of thing.
Hmm.
Is that the context of it?
For Sean Stevenson, you mean? Um, yeah, I think like I said, it's Ed Mylett that I was talking about. I know that Ed Mylett and Sean Stevenson are homies and they do podcasts together. So I didn't write down what episode of what podcast I was writing these quotes down from. But I think that this may have been them having that conversation, yes, in the context of in Sean Stevenson's case, when he broke his hip when he was a teenager, running, not via an injury or anything. Is the bone just broke because it was so brittle and degenerating, and multiple doctors told him, oh son, this is just something that happens, this is not really a reason, there's nothing you can do about it. And he was talking about, he changed his question to, well, okay, instead of, for a while it was why me, why me, why me kind of thing, to what can I do? So
Hmm.
there's two versions of it, I guess. There's a mindset and there's an action. There's what do I need to believe and what do I need to do in
Right.
order to make this work.
Right. And that's an important part of actualizing any goal or manifesting something. We talk about all the time. It's not just, yeah, it's not just putting out there, it's in like the beingness or the doingness.
Yeah, but changing beliefs is like not easy, especially, especially
Yeah.
if you haven't really taken the time to examine what beliefs are necessary and what your beliefs are.
Hmm. Yeah. I think it's just an interesting conversation too. Just even I don't know if we talked about it in the last episode, or if we talked about the car ride to the radio show last week, but um or in our DMs, but we were talking about different people's perspectives and what their inner voices are, and everybody, and based on their experiences and their knowledge, is everybody is just operating from a place that they know best.
Mhm.
And so, in terms of how someone's mind might answer that question, it's just like, we say, you and I, we can look at the same color and we're both going to see different colors. We could give it the same name. The way that we receive it is different. So I think when we ask, like, what do I need to believe in order to fill in the blank, what comes from that is probably going to be action oriented. But it would be interesting just to like, if there was a study to know what, how are people answering that internally?
Mhm.
And what like how does that influence your outcome? You getting from point A to Z and just
Yeah. Yeah. That would be, I mean, study design is not my forte, but that would be a tough study.
it's
There's a lot
really
of
tough.
subjectivity there, but yeah, somebody should do it.
I don't know, somebody listening can do that.
Yeah, somebody who's into structuring research.
Yeah, no, I happened to just have a lot of conversations yesterday and within the past couple weeks with people that are researching topics like this. I might put it out there. But researching in particular feng shui, and qualifying, quantifying the results and the effect of things that get dismissed as woo, um, but there's science behind it. Well, anyway, not to get off topic, but there's larger conferences that are around these researchers. A lot of them are on the West Coast, a lot of them are around London, UK, and they've been able to start put some of these research topics into, you know what, maybe I'm going to invite one to be on the podcast.
Yeah.
Why don't I do that? Duh.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm sure we'll get lots of interesting information about how hard it is to fund something like that,
yeah, it is, but there's
which
also,
is kind of why we don't have
it's not something you and
a
I
lot
are
of
really.
research on the more quote
Yeah,
unquote
but
woo
there's
topics.
investors that are really into that. And I think this space, and I forget what it's called right now. The word's escaping me, but kind of just biohacking, like what does that area fall under? Now that that's a hot topic,
Biohacking.
yeah, biohacking and that whole category has a lot of
Hmm.
money in it right now. So a lot of these concepts
Yeah.
are intertwined. So
Yeah.
finally, you're going to start seeing the research folding in. And a lot of these big players are at these conferences, and there's a lot more talk around mindset and unseen energy influences and, quantum entanglement. And so I think it'll be really interesting to see. But
Yeah, totally. And look, science to back things up is always awesome. Um,
it's affirming.
I also think that I mean, the great thing about a lot of these outside of the medical paradigm,
Hmm.
but still health and wellness oriented topics, the good thing is we in general have a lot of agency over in incorporating these things into our lives. You know what I mean? I don't need to what like it's awesome if especially to share the craft with certain factions of people, to have some hard data to back things up. But also just we as people who care about our own health, consumers, practitioners, can do our own research. You know what I mean? I think there's always a lot of weight that should be considered to any practice that is thousands of years of history. You know what I mean? Like to me, that is just as strong as scientific research,
Right.
to show that millions of people have been using this for thousands of years, and keep on showing up to do it. Like obviously
Hmm.
there's some substance there. So thankfully we can take this into our own hands to a large degree, as the red tape for obtaining all the science kind of
Right.
pans itself out.
Yeah, it's interesting though. I mean, I think what you just said made me think about another quote that you had shared with me that you saved. It was something along the lines of trust. Uh,
Mhm.
we can trust things
Um,
based on
I'll
our
tell
own
you.
experience and evidence.
The cornerstone of faith is trust in yourself.
Mm. Yeah.
So if there's a lack of faith in a certain outcome, I guess, or the biggest, the cornerstone of faith is trusting yourself.
Did that quote that you captured in your notes, did that come from the same podcast and conversation or a different one from your day?
I think so.
Because they kind of flow together, finding that trust within yourself and just like reinforcing it.
Yeah. I think it was from the same
Yeah.
podcast.
Those are good daily nuggets for today.
Mhm.
I think it feels like and I love to listen to podcasts and I listen to tarot cards and read books and things when I'm walking. And there's some, conditioning and programming that happens, that whatever you're listening to carries into your conversation, into your projects, into your day. But the topic of trust and trusting yourself to be able to believe that not only just achieve, but to believe that you can fill in the
Mhm.
blank is
Well, and when is faith required, right? Faith is required in times of uncertainty,
Mhm.
right? Like we don't know what's going to happen.
which is
And
like all the time.
so if you don't trust, right, and it's amplified, right now in the last 2 months, I would say, just with all the upheavals and stuff like that. Like so much is uncertain right now. But trusting yourself, right, to make the best decisions with the information that you currently have, and trusting yourself to be able to be adaptable in the uncertainty allows you to um, show up to that situation with faith that it's going to work out um, for the greatest good
Yeah.
ultimately.
Yeah. I know it's kind of like a double-edged sword, but also I just like the concept of also like trusting people and the environment and the scenario and that the
Well,
opportunity.
and if I think you have to trust yourself first, right? Because how could you trust other people if you don't
Yeah.
trust yourself, kind of thing. And then it's a trust. It starts with trusting yourself, right? There's other elements to it, but to trust that everything is going to work out for the greatest good starts
Mhm.
starts there. You can't expand from that if you don't have that in yourself.
Yeah. I think in our last or one of our last energy check-ins, we were talking about being discerning about who you share big ideas with. Um, remember the reading about stupid people rain?
Kind of.
Yeah. I think I remember all of them. That's my superpower. I remember
Mm.
every collective reading. But I think this topic makes a lot of sense for that reinforcement of cultivating that trust and faith in ourselves, but um, that exercise of asking that question in that way is the beginning.
Hmm.
I like it. Thank you for sharing those. I think those are good. Maybe we should do more segments and shows around thoughts that you receive from your walking meditation
Shit that other people say.
that are in your phone.
Yes, that are in my phone. I mean, I'm not
Doesn't everybody do
like
it?
I don't write 90% of the things down that I absolutely should be writing down on a regular basis. So if I stop what I'm doing to to write a quote
Mhm.
down, that's big. It's big.
Yeah. Well, it's important and it probably resonates with a lot of people at the right time.
Yeah.
I'm more of like a screenshotter. So I'm a visual person. So I screenshot a lot of things. I don't
I
do
do that. I do that, but then I have so many like photos and videos on my phone that I really rarely
Do anything.
interact with those screenshots again. So if
Yeah.
I have it all in one space in my notes app, then I always wish I wrote more. Like, well, where the hell did that come from?
Yeah. Do you use the voice notes? Do you talk into your phone?
Sometimes it depends on what
Save
I'm
it?
doing.
Yeah. I have a lot of friends that send me their voice notes. Like I get a lot of really people like to share like their dreams or whatever, and
It would be voice to text, not like voice
text.
note.
Okay. We get a lot of like voice note recordings and things like that. I'm like, that's such a great idea because there's so many times that I have like a shower idea or like wake up from a dream and I don't want to text it, but using the voice notes is a good way to capture it and save it for later. So you can use it when the time is right. Who knows?
Yeah. I don't know if I have that in the iPhone Notes app. That's all I'm using. I don't think you can just make separate like audio files.
It would take up a lot of space on your phone.
But I do like WhatsApp for that.
Yeah.
For you non iPhone users.
Yeah.
Because we can send those via text.
Right.
Between iPhones.
Yeah, I do like those. Yeah, those are good. But good topic, Emily. I like it. Anything that we should leave everybody with before we
just change your question? Yeah.
change
Just if
the
you find
question?
yourself stuck, frustrated, blocked, or anything kind of similar to that, just unsure as to how to move forward, or even just in a situation where you want to feel better about something, like you don't like the way you feel about something, a mindset or a perspective change would be helpful, but you're not quite sure how to get there, just change your question.
Yeah,
What do I need to believe? What do I need to do?
Let's take that question inside of the Conscious Collaboration Collective, our close and private Facebook group. It's been a while. I need to check in there and put some energy into it. Still going through the emails, but I'd love to have that conversation inside there. So if you would like to continue this conversation and share with us your perspective on it and what might work for you or not, join us inside the group, or you can connect with us in email, find us on Instagram. And thanks for listening to us wherever you are. Yeah.
If you made it this far, you are the real MVP.
Yeah. But they're probably listening to us on 1.5 speed. I think that's how they make it.
Do I sound like Alvin and the Chipmunks?
No, not at all.
I want to hear that.
Yeah, do it. All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you for rating us as well and helping other people find us. That maybe your conscious collaborators could
smash that like button.
Stay tuned for the YouTube channel. All right. Well, I will talk to you in 5.
Talk to you in 5. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank y'all so much for listening to our podcast. If you haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share with all your friends so they can join our circle of collaboration on this journey. You can find us on Instagram at Conscious Collaboration Podcast, on Spotify, iTunes, and Audible, to name a few. Please join us next time for another deep dive into how you can live life in more alignment, mind, body, and business. Send us your questions and comments in our DMs or email us at consciouscollaborationpodcast@gmail.com. See you in 5 minutes.